There was a loud cracking sound in the old, empty house. The squeaking grew louder and louder, like twigs snapping with a great force. Seconds later, the floor opened, and the man started falling with his stomach lurching as gravity pulled him down for what seemed like an eternity. This is not a new version of Alice in Wonderland, but a real story that happened to Christopher Town in Guilford, Connecticut. Christopher and his wife Angela were helping their friend move furniture into a new home. Suddenly, the floor cracked open and the man fell more than 20 feet into a well with cold water. His wife was shocked as he just disappeared in a second in front of her eyes. Christopher was naturally shocked too, but he tried to keep his head cool to increase his chances of surviving. The fire department arrived a few minutes later and gave the unprepared swimmer a life jacket. He couldn't reach the bottom of the well and was holding on to the stone wall to stay above the water. The rescue crew put together a hauling system with a rope. One of the firefighters descended into the well, put the harness on Town, and pulled him back on the surface. He was really grateful to the rescuers as he was starting to feel numb and wouldn't have made it out on his own. He ended up with some minor injuries. As it turned out, the house with a surprise well was built in 1843. The well must have been outside of the house at the beginning. Then, over a century later, they renovated the house and added an expansion. They just covered the well with regular wood flooring and no subfloor or proper well cap to keep it safe. The authorities made the landlord cap the well so the renter or her kids didn't fall in. Finding a well in your home is creepy, but 10 students of Ohio State University who rented a house off campus together found something even more disturbing. The power on the third floor often went off, so someone had to go to the basement to flip the circuit breaker. They heard strange noises down there and found a locked door. One of the students once saw a man walking out of the basement. He told them his name was Jeremy, but refused to talk to them and left. Then, drawers would be left open in the kitchen and bathroom. Lights were turned on, although no one touched them. And there were more strange noises from the basement. The guys thought the house must have been haunted, so they called the landlord. Together with the police, they opened the locked door and found a fully furnished bedroom with photos, a TV, and some clothes inside. So that guy, Jeremy, or whatever his real name was living there for months without paying a cent for rent. He was getting inside the basement through a side door, so no one would see him. Jeremy got evicted immediately, and the rental company changed the locks. Students kept living in the house, although it was pretty spooky. They became sort of famous, and many people came to see Jeremy's room. A family in England noticed an unusual metal grid outside their bathroom in the house they moved in. One day, during a family party, they decided to finally explore what was underneath it. When they opened it, they saw a hole, and their son managed to fit through it. The son of the couple and his uncle climbed down and discovered a big chest inside a brick room. The chest was filled with old newspaper from the early 1900s. There were also some old bottles that were still full. In the center of the room, there was a wooden cross that had fallen over and was rotting because the space was so damp. They also noticed hooks hanging from the ceiling, which they thought might have been used to hang meat. At one end of the cellar, they saw a damp cloth, and there were brick seats along the walls that reminded them of something you might see in a church. Other family members found a staircase at the back of the basement. They figured out that the house was about 230 years old, but they didn't know much else about its history. They thought it might have been a pub at some point in the past. Mark and Jenny Ronsman bought a house in Wisconsin and were told that there used to be a hot tub in one of the rooms. An elderly lady had lived there before them, but as she got older, she stopped using the Roman-style bath and covered it up instead of removing it. The lady showed them an old picture of the hot tub filled with water and people using it, but they couldn't see the tub in every detail from the photos. Mark was curious, so when they moved in, he ripped up the carpet in the room to see what was underneath. It took the couple 3.5 years after moving in before they decided to start fixing it. Mark found that the tiles inside the hot tub were still beautiful, and it was very deep. He fixed it up himself and posted before and after pictures on his Facebook account. He got plenty of likes and comments on it. A pool technician checked the tub and said it was in good condition. So the couple just had to clean all the tiles, flush and clean the pipes, and fill it up with water. Mark decided not to stop there and is trying to fix up a shuffle bowler arcade machine from the 1950s.
A hole in the wall behind a bathroom mirror led to a secret room.
Samantha Hartzell moved into a 3-bedroom apartment on Roosevelt Island, New York, with 2 roommates. She once came back from a hiking trip and noticed that it was really chilly in her bathroom. There was no vent or anything, so she couldn't figure out where the cold air was coming from. When she lifted the mirror that seemed to be the source of the chill, she saw a hole in the wall, something like a niche that once held a medicine cabinet, but with no back. It led to a room. Brave Samantha decided to get inside with a flashlight strapped to her head, a face mask, and a hammer for protection from the possible monsters that lived on the other side. She soon realized there was no way she could climb back through the same hole, so she had to venture further in and found a full 3-bedroom apartment with its windows open. There was a bunch of trash bags and an empty water bottle inside, which meant someone was living there at some point. The apartment really needed renovation. There was no bathtub or toilet in it, and the floor was ripped up. Samantha found a way out of the apartment, and she noticed it wasn't even next to hers. She had to walk through her building to get back to her place. Some people search for treasures in abandoned homes on a regular basis to take photos of them. That was the story of the guy who entered one such home in southern Ontario, looking for antiques and artifacts. The house seemed to have been abandoned for at least 30 or 40 years. The kitchen and cupboards were packed with products that expired a long time ago, and canisters. There were also family photos all around. The last owners of the house had passed away, and their siblings who inherited it never really wanted to live there. Just minutes after entering, the fearless explorer noticed something unusual at the corner of the mattress, as if someone was hiding something there. It turned out to be a yellow bag from a hardware store, filled with nearly $6,800 in cash, old smelly US and Canadian money in tight rolls. Most of them had little elastics to keep the money together and marked in pencil with dates from the mid-1960s to 1970s and amounts. The guy who found them and his friend who told him about the house decided to contact the lady who inherited the property. He left her a voicemail, and a few hours later, she called him back, really nervous. She and her husband agreed to meet with the urban explorer at the house, and she showed them where the money was.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.